Battle begins in the mind. Key scripture, Genesis 3:1-6. Before Eve ever touched the forbidden fruit, a battle had already begun. It was not a battle of strength. It was not a battle of circumstances. It was not a battle of opportunity. It was a battle of thoughts. This is one of the most important lessons in Genesis 3. The first temptation did not begin with an action. It began with an idea. The serpent approached Eve with a question. Did God really say? That question seems harmless at first glance, yet it marked the beginning of humanity's first rebellion. The serpent understood something that many people still fail to recognize today. If you can influence a person's thinking, you can eventually influence their behavior. Everything begins in the mind. Every achievement begins with a thought. Every habit begins with a thought. Every addiction begins with a thought. Every act of kindness begins with a thought. Every act of evil begins with a thought. The mind is the battlefield where life's most important victories and defeats take place. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to change their behavior while completely ignoring the thoughts that produce that behavior. This is like trying to stop a river while ignoring its source. The source determines the direction of the flow. In the same way, thoughts determine the direction of life. Consider how temptation works. Very few people wake up one morning and decide to destroy their lives. Very few people suddenly decide to ruin a marriage, destroy a career, or betray a trusted friend. Major failures usually begin with small thoughts that are allowed to grow unchecked. A person thinks, no one will know. It's only once. I deserve this. It's not really hurting anyone. Everyone else is doing it. Those thoughts may seem insignificant, yet they often become the foundation for destructive actions. Genesis reveals that the serpent's strategy was not force. The serpent did not physically compel Eve. Instead, he challenged her perception. He encouraged her to see reality differently. This remains one of the most powerful forms of temptation today. People rarely fall because they lack intelligence. People often fall because they begin to view wrong things as acceptable and right things as restrictive. This process happens gradually. The mind slowly reinterprets reality. What once seemed dangerous begins to appear attractive. What once seemed foolish begins to appear reasonable. What once seemed wrong begins to appear justified. The battle is therefore not primarily external. The battle is internal. Modern culture often focuses on external solutions. People want better circumstances, better opportunities, better relationships, better environments. These things certainly matter. However, Genesis reminds us that external improvements cannot solve internal problems. A person can move to a new city and still carry the same fears. A person can change jobs and still carry the same insecurities. A person can enter a new relationship and still struggle with the same destructive habits. The reason is simple. Wherever you go, your mind goes with you. The greatest obstacles in life are often not outside us. They are inside us. The Apostle Paul understood this reality centuries later when he described the conflict between what he wanted to do and what he actually did. His struggle was not merely behavioral. It was mental and spiritual. Many people experience the same conflict. They want peace, but continually choose worry. They want healthy relationships, but repeatedly choose selfishness. They want financial stability, but continually make impulsive decisions. They want spiritual growth, but repeatedly neglect spiritual disciplines. The problem is not always a lack of desire. The problem is often a failure to win the battle of the mind. Thoughts are powerful because they shape beliefs. Beliefs shape decisions. Decisions shape habits. Habits shape character. Character shapes destiny. This chain begins with a thought. That is why guarding the mind is so important. Every day, people consume enormous amounts of information. News, entertainment, social media, advertising, podcasts, videos, conversations, books, messages, ideas. Each one has the potential to influence thinking. The average person spends hours every day absorbing content without carefully evaluating its impact. Yet every message shapes perception in some way. Social media provides a powerful example. Many people spend hours comparing their lives to carefully edited images of others. As a result, they begin to believe that everyone else is happier, wealthier, more attractive, or more successful. Those beliefs often create feelings of inadequacy. Inadequacy leads to dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction leads to unhealthy decisions. The entire process begins in the mind. Genesis teaches us to pay attention to what influences our thinking. The serpent's first goal was not behavior. His first goal was attention. He wanted Eve to focus on the one thing she could not have rather than the countless blessings she already possessed. This remains one of the enemy's most effective strategies. People often become obsessed with what they lack. Instead of appreciating what they have, they focus on what they do not have. They focus on the promotion they did not receive, the relationship they do not have, the opportunities they missed, the possessions they cannot afford, the recognition they believe they deserve. Over time, this focus creates dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction creates vulnerability. Vulnerability creates temptation. Temptation creates poor decisions. The mind becomes trapped in a cycle. Gratitude breaks that cycle. Gratitude shifts attention away from scarcity and toward abundance. This is why grateful people often experience greater contentment. Their circumstances may not be perfect, but their perspective is healthier. Perspective influences behavior. Another important lesson from Genesis is that thoughts must be examined. Not every thought deserves trust. Many people assume that because they think something, it must be true. This assumption creates countless problems. Feelings can be misleading, thoughts can be inaccurate, perceptions can be distorted. For example, someone may think, "I am a failure. I will never change. Nobody cares about me. I am not good enough. Nothing will ever improve." These thoughts may feel true, yet feelings are not always facts. A healthy mind learns to evaluate thoughts rather than automatically accept them. The serpent introduced doubt into Eve's thinking. Today, many people entertain destructive thoughts without questioning them. They allow fear, anxiety, resentment, and insecurity to dominate their minds. Over time, these thoughts shape their entire outlook on life. This is why mental discipline is essential. Mental discipline does not mean suppressing thoughts. It means examining them, questioning them, testing them, replacing harmful thoughts with truthful ones. Many successful people understand this principle. Athletes train their minds as well as their bodies. Leaders train their minds as well as their skills. Spiritually mature people train their minds as well as their behavior. Growth always involves thinking differently. If you want different results, you often need different thoughts. The story of Eve demonstrates another important truth. Temptation becomes stronger when imagination takes control. After listening to the serpent, Eve began imagining possibilities that God had forbidden. The fruit became increasingly attractive. The more she focused on it, the stronger the temptation became. This principle remains true today. The mind magnifies whatever it continually contemplates. Focus on fear and fear grows. Focus on anger and anger grows. Focus on temptation and temptation grows. Focus on gratitude and gratitude grows. Focus on hope and hope grows. The mind functions like a garden. Whatever receives attention tends to grow. Therefore, people must be intentional about what they cultivate. This requires daily practice. Healthy thinking rarely develops automatically. Just as physical fitness requires exercise, mental fitness requires discipline. One practical habit is daily reflection. Take time each day to examine your thoughts. Ask questions such as, what dominated my thinking today? What caused me anxiety? What made me angry? What brought me peace? What assumptions influenced my decisions? These questions reveal patterns. Patterns reveal strongholds. Strongholds reveal areas that need transformation. Another helpful practice is limiting unhealthy influences. Not every voice deserves access to your mind. Some voices encourage wisdom. Others encourage fear. Some voices promote truth. Others promote confusion. Choose carefully. The quality of your thinking is often influenced by the quality of the voices you allow into your life. The people around you matter. The content you consume matters. The conversations you engage in matter. Everything that enters the mind contributes to its formation. Genesis ultimately teaches that the battle of life begins long before visible actions occur. It begins in the hidden world of thoughts. This truth should encourage us rather than discourage us. Why? Because it means change is possible. If destructive behavior begins with destructive thinking, then healthier thinking can lead to healthier behavior. Transformation becomes possible when the mind is renewed. Many people try to change their actions without changing their thinking. Eventually, they become frustrated. Lasting change requires both. The goal is not merely to avoid wrong actions. The goal is to develop a renewed mind that naturally produces better choices. This process takes time. It requires patience. It requires persistence. It requires honesty. Most importantly, it requires humility. Humility allows us to admit that our thinking is not always correct. Humility allows us to learn. Humility allows us to grow. The serpent succeeded because Eve accepted a false perspective. Wisdom begins when we learn to recognize false perspectives before they shape our behavior. Every day we face the same challenge. Every day thoughts compete for influence. Every day beliefs are formed. Every day decisions are made. Every day the battle begins in the mind. Those who learn to win that battle will discover that many of life's external struggles become easier to overcome, because the mind is where temptation begins, but it is also where transformation begins.